my talk today will be called Turning Wounds into Wisdom. And before I begin, I would like to ask you, how many of you think it's possible to look at some of your most traumatic experiences or the people who hurt you the most in your life and not only forgive them, but also to start loving them again and look at all those experiences with eyes of love and compassion, and to trust that maybe in those experiences are hidden some of your most valuable and precious gifts. So, so hopefully after this talk, everybody will think this way. So, it was a peaceful and quiet night in our home. My siblings and I were sitting in the middle of our living room, watching TV, while my parents were somewhere around the house. While we were sitting there, enjoying ourselves, all of a sudden, we hear our father's angry voice breaking the silence. Who took them? Who took them? There are candy missing. Who took them? I looked at my sisters, and from the look on her face, she looked horrified, and I immediately knew it was her. We both started crying and shaking because we knew what was about to happen. And then he asked again, who took them? If the person who took them won't answer, you will all get in big trouble. All of you hear me? That moment, I didn't even want him to ask the question one more time. I just got up and I said, it was me. I took the candy. At that time, I didn't realize why I said it was me, but probably because I didn't want my sister to get hurt. I knew I could handle my own pain and I could deal with that suffering, but I would not be able to see her suffer. The moment I said it was me, he just pulled me by my hair and started dragging me all the way to the bathroom and screaming and shouting, bring me the gasoline, bring me the gasoline. I started crying so loudly. And I was not even 10 years old at that time, and I was shaking, and I didn't know why he needed the gasoline for. Bring me the gasoline, or I'll burn you all. He threw me on the bathroom floor, started putting paper between my toes, and eventually lit me on fire. I was crying so loudly and shaking. I was horrified because I was I was there with my body, but it felt like, is this really me? Is this really happening? Why would my father do such a thing to me? And I was begging him to let me go, to leave me alone, but it just felt like his body was physically there, but his mind and his spirit were not there. I was crying and shaking, and because my body just couldn't deal with so much pain, I just collapsed. And it felt like the seconds that were sitting there and on fire just felt like an eternity to me. And I honestly felt like I won't make it alive. And I passed out. I had a lot of memories like this from my past and a lot of experiences. And even though I suppressed most of them while growing up, somehow this one just remained with me. And I couldn't forget it. And I never really had a childhood, nor did I know how it felt like to live in a happy, healthy environment. For the first 12 years of my life, my father replaced love and nourishment with brutality and violence. And that's all I remember. I don't remember a moment when I was actually having a beautiful, loving interaction with my father. And even though the physical abuse stopped when I was 12 years old, because that's when my father died, I somehow continued to abuse myself emotionally and mentally, simply because there were so much pain in my life and so much past that I was carrying into the present moment. And I just didn't know how to heal those wounds and how to deal with all that pain. And it's not like I was taken to a psychologist, or because we didn't have the money, and everybody in my family was so focused on healing their own pain and trying to survive, that it just felt like you're on your own. For a very long time, I thought that my self-worth equaled my net worth, and because we didn't really have enough, I kind of continued to think that I wasn't a valuable human being. And I remember going to school and on the playground, the people were treating me differently. And it made me mad and sad because I didn't understand why in the world are people treating me like that. While at the same time, I remember thinking, well, if my own father treated me like this, what can I expect from other people? And then, as I was growing up, when I was a kid, I was thinking that probably my father was treating me the way he was treating me because there was something wrong with me, because how can you treat your own child like that? There has to be something wrong. And unfortunately, I took that belief with me as years went by, and I crafted my life based on that belief. And as a result, I started attracting in my life all kind of people and experiences who proved me that I was right, and I allowed them to kind of make me less or more valuable based on how they were treating me. So it wasn't easy, and it felt like things were getting worse and worse as I was getting older and as years were going by, and I was becoming unhappier and unhappier. And I remember I felt like I hit the rock bottom, and I was so on the edge in the fall of 2009 when I came back from US after spending 3 years there. And after being with my boyfriend for a very long time, we decided to break up. And because I was so needy and I didn't know how to love myself and how to be alone with myself, I was just clinging on to him, and I didn't know how to let go. And even though our relationship was toxic, I just felt like I needed. And I was also used to toxicity. So in a way, in my head, even though it was disturbing, I thought that maybe I deserved that. So I was trying to hold on to it. And then to make things worse, I was studying something that I don't even know why I was studying, because for 12 years, I went and I studied art. And then somehow I ended up studying economics. And then I didn't really have that many friends. So it just felt like wherever I look, I was just bumping into walls. And I just felt like I couldn't do it anymore. And I remember waking up one night, and I was sweating, and I started crying, and I realized that I can't do this anymore. I can't live like this anymore. There has to be a better way. And it was in that year that I started reading a lot of personal development. And one of the books that I read that changed my life was Man's Search for Meaning, written by Viktor Frankl, who was a survivor of the Holocaust. And in that book, he opened me up, something shifted after reading that book, because I realized that what if the past happened the way it did because there was something that I needed to learn? And what if in those wounds and in those experiences are hidden some of my most precious gifts and lessons? And even though it wasn't easy, because how in the world can you look at your past and realize that 12 years you were deprived of love and you didn't have a childhood, and how can you think that there was any meaning in that? So I used to think be very resentful, and even though I didn't really hate my father, I had these feelings of sadness and thinking to myself that it wasn't right, I didn't deserve that. And the more I kind of opened up to this idea of accepting what happened and looking for the meaning, it was easier for me to actually open all the closet and look at all my skeletons. And even though it was scary, and to kind of give them a hug, because by doing so, you actually realize that you're fears and your worst enemy, they become your best friends, and they teach you valuable lessons. And so I remember one day, I was I don't know what happened that day, but I was very, very, very unhappy, and I was in a really bad place. And I remember being so mean with everybody around me. And I went home and I started crying, and I was why am I doing this? Why am I treating people like that? Because they're really good and loving people. And in that moment, I just had this realization that what if my father treated me the way he did, not because I was unworthy, but because he was in a really bad place, and because there was so much pain accumulated in his life, and because he didn't know how to deal with that pain, he started spilling over. And that helped me so much, because it made me understand that I wasn't unworthy, and there was nothing wrong with me. And that if people treated me unkindly, it didn't have anything to do with me. And if until that moment, I didn't know any better, and I allowed them to make me feel less valuable, now it's the moment for me to take responsibility and to look at all those experiences differently, and to ask people to treat me the way I want to be treated. And that's how I learned to let go of all the things that were holding me back in life. Let go of the self-judgment and the judgment that I was directing toward everybody around me, of criticism, of control. Because I was being in a relationship with my ex-boyfriend, I was trying to control him all the time, and I thought that he would be my salvation. And by letting go of all those things, and by peeling off all the layers, I managed to tap into something that was so beautiful, and I managed to feel so much lighter and at peace. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with the movie The Shift with Wayne Dyer. And in that movie, there's a scene where Wayne talks about how in the first 9 months of our lives, everything we need is being provided to us. So why wouldn't it be the same for the rest of our lives? Because we interfere. And that in those 9 of our months, we are pure, whole, and holy, and that there's nothing unworthy about us, and there's nothing lacking. And it felt like the more I was peeling off the layers, the more I was letting go of all the things and toxicity in my life, I was able to like tap into that inner beauty and to like go back to that place of serenity that Wayne was talking about. And it felt like life began to take care of me. And it helped me understand my father and why he did all those things to me. And it helped me go from bitterness and resentment to love, compassion. And it helped me understand that how people treat you doesn't have to determine how you treat yourself, and that your self-worth does not equal your net worth. And that if you want like to change your life, you don't have to like ask people to treat you differently, and you will not change, and you will not get better by getting things, but you will change from how you think and how you perceive yourself. And by doing so, I managed to like transform my life and to attract people in my life that were like loving and beautiful. And it made me realize that when you let go of the old, you make room for the new. And you are able to tap into something that is so beautiful and it's so unique. And you are able to discover talents that you didn't know you have. Because that's how I started writing. And that's how I wrote that article. And for me, writing was such a healing experience because it helped me understand everything that I was going through. And it helped me become my own healer. And it helped me realize that nobody will help me if I don't help myself. And that my salvation will not come from the outside. There's a beautiful quote from Buddha that goes like this: "No one saves us but ourselves. No one can, no one may. We ourselves must walk the path." So no matter how many horrible things happened to you in the past, and no matter how bad people treated you, it doesn't have to determine who you are. The story of your past does not have to equal the story of your life. And everything for me changed the moment I decided to make a commitment to myself, to let go of all the things that were holding me back, to let go of my past, to let go of judgment, of toxicity thinking, to let go of resentment, the need to like control people, and the attachment to all that pain. Because believe it or not, we are so attached to our own pain and our own struggles that we keep those struggles to keep us away from actually moving forward with our lives. And by making a commitment to myself to make the rest of my life the best of my life, I was able to actually surrender to whatever it was that life was offering me up until that moment, and to look at everything with like understanding, and to think that there are lessons that I need to learn. And if people come into my life and then treat me in ways that I don't like to be treated, it's my responsibility to make that this is not who I am, and to like let those people go. And that's why after that, I got back to my boyfriend, and we went back together, but it was like again toxic. So it just took me so long to actually let go of that relationship. Because it's so funny how the past, if you don't heal it, and if you don't take time to like look into everything that was happened to you and accept it and forgiving, chances are that it will repeat. It will repeat, and you will like encounter the same people, maybe different faces, but the same experiences. And that's why it's like so important to just surrender to whatever it is that life has to offer you, and to trust, just like Eckhart Tolle said, life will give you whatever experience is most beneficial for the evolution of your consciousness. How do you know that's true? Because that's the experience you are having right now. And to give yourself permission to forgive those people that treated you unkindly, your past, your wounds, and to heal, forgive yourself for treating people badly, because probably you did the best you knew at that time. To let go of all the things that are holding you back, to work on purifying your thoughts, and because I remember like back in the days, all the thoughts that were running through my mind were like so toxic. And if you think about it, it's your thoughts that create your beliefs, and based on beliefs you act. And when you act, you're creating your own life. So by purifying your thoughts, you purify your own life. To take time to contemplate and to be alone with yourself. What I've noticed that a lot of people can't really be alone with themselves. Why? Because they don't enjoy their own company. I couldn't do it before either. But the more I I allow myself to just go outside in nature, to meditate, to write, and to be alone, away from everybody, I was able to build a relationship with myself. Because how do you build a friendship? By spending quality time with that person. And that's why it's so important to just be alone with yourself and to know who you really are. And by doing so, you'll be able to love yourself fully, and you'll understand that you don't need other people. And when you will be with other people, you'll be so easy to be around, and they will enjoy your company. And you will not have to get their approval, because they will give it to you freely. Another thing what you can do is to see if you can express your gratitude for all the things that happen to you, all the experiences, good or bad. And by doing so, chances are that you'll be able to see all the lessons that your experience have to teach you. And they will help you make you a better person, not bitter. And they will help you turn your wounds into wisdom. And by doing so, you will be able to craft the life you want and to live the life that you deserve. Thank you.